Hit it, man. We're live. What's up, killers? Here we are. Dave, what's going on, dog? Just you and me.
Just you and me, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it'll be a quiet one today. No
Just the
rowdy,
two of us.
no rowdy element.
I'm sure we'll have some rowdiness. All right, I got 619 OTA on the chat. Thanks, dog. 6.19K subscribers, which is important because that is our telephone area code. So, yeah.
Oh, excellent.
Rock and roll. Bomber Crypto. I keep meaning to have that helium mug that I think your significant other, your better half, whatever it is, sent me. And all I've got is my same mug that I've had for the last 10 years. So I'll get to it. But good morning, everybody. What do we got today? Dave, let's start off. I think Neil's going to come on a little bit late. Let's start off with what's going on with analytics.
Okay, so we're still down. Our ETL is still not behaving. It's still not starting. So we've got somebody looking at that, and Paul's helping as well to try and kickstart that today. There was a new snapshot a couple of days ago that we've downloaded, and we still can't get it running. So we're on with that, but it doesn't stop the progress. Hi Neil.
Yeah, and we'll bring in our Phantom just to make everything look nice.
Yeah, it doesn't stop the progress with looking at the data. So I tweeted a whole load of data yesterday, looking at what's been going on the network, and it's really boring at the moment. Everything's really stable.
Stable as hell, all right.
Yeah, spookily stable. Everything's within sort of 0.5% every day, so nothing's changing. The only downside to that is it's stable but not beaconing enough, and I guess we'll move on to that later in the show.
So we're
looking. Huh? Yeah, we're looking around 190,000 hotspots are beaconing on a daily basis, and about 450,000 are witnessing on a daily basis. In terms of rewards, we're looking at just over 50,000. So I think it was 52,000 yesterday, 53,000 the day before, which is slightly above where we need to be at 50,000. But we've obviously had a few days in the last few weeks where it's been below 50,000, so it's correcting itself. One of the things I did look at is over the last 14 days, I looked at the rewards. I looked at the distribution in terms of what's going on, and it looks like there's close to 600,000 hotspots that have beaconed and witnessed over the last 14 days. So over that period, it looks like it's maxing out around 600,000. So 250,000 hotspots still aren't doing anything, which is very similar to pre the transition to lights. We've got 30,000 plus on the deny list. We've got, I think, 50,000 that I looked at that were long-term dead. And around 50,000 that yet to be onboarded. So the numbers are looking pretty similar when you look over a longer period. It doesn't stop people moaning and complaining though that they're not beaconing and they're not seeing things. Looking at the rewards themselves, the average is still around 0.1 on a daily basis. I looked at the last 5 days. I looked at the distribution. I just tweeted some results from that, and again, it just looks. I'm not going to say perfect because that's not the right word. It looks perfect for the conditions that we're in at the moment, and the
stable,
the parameters,
it's just stable,
the parameters,
the
parameters that we've got at the moment. So,
looking at my earnings for the last 9 days, they're stable as hell. There's no variance hardly at all, and they're a straight line, which means I'm actually up because we've had so much variance in the last couple of weeks. So my 14 days and everything are quite flat now. So. It's good to see.
Yeah, mine are similar, which yes, it's good to see. There are still some people that are not happy. They're earning what they consider to be less. I have suggested that you can't look at it on a daily basis really anymore. You have to sort of zoom out to 2, 3, 4 days to really see any trends. But yeah, we'll just have to keep an eye on it and see what the future brings.
Man, we got Joey here, so we got to ask: is it really in the can yet?
Always was.
That's it. Okay, so the big takeaway is that it's pretty darn stable. I know from reading the announcements that the dev team is still working on it. There's some still some pretty big decisions to be made if I'm understanding it correctly. But overall, we're kind of looking at a much more stable network than it was 3-4 weeks ago.
Yeah,
sure.
one thing that's not stable is rewards for transferring packets. There was an announcement a couple of days ago about some gaming that was going on with the console, and what I did see is a huge drop in packet transfers. So obviously that the gaming element had been eliminated. So there was like a 30 or 40% drop in packets transferred. I think maybe Saturday it started, and it's dropped down to again a stable level. But it needs to increase significantly, because I think there's like 7 HNT being awarded per day for packet transfer, and we need it to be like 50,000 per day. So there's a long way to go.
Yeah. No, there's an awful lot to be done. I'm seeing Hockey Cannon is saying that his less dense areas are down. And I'm always curious about this, is that having, gotten deep into these statistics and math and information theory and graph theory books lately, it's like, okay, let's make sure we put the parameters on that correctly. Is that like 2 hotspots that are in rural areas that are down, or is that, do you have a fleet of 300 and 150 of them in rural areas and those are all down? Like, what are the kind of numbers we're seeing? I'm not saying, Hockey Cannon, that you're wrong. I'm just curious about what that actually means.
Well, there's a H3 Dex bug as well, so targeting's affected. So that hasn't gone live yet. So less dense areas with no offline hotspots aren't getting as many beacons as those in areas with lots of offline hotspots at the moment. So
okay, I thought they had fixed that. My bad.
Not yet.
All right. And then Alexander Annunciata, before light hotspot update, I personally had rare moments where I was in syncing mode. I have 17 hotspots total, and 5 of them go flatlined every day. It's weird as they alternate. Have you guys seen like different hotspots in your personal fleets flatline and alternate like this?
Yes, for sure. I mean, the difference is that you beacon in on average every 3 days. So if you look at it on the daily, some days you're flatline, right?
Right.
It's as simple as that. Like, and in your area, you might just have a bad area that particular day where no one's been challenged. So you can see these long flatline periods. Is why you really need to start measuring on the weekly or 2 weekly, just to see what's going on. Because looking at it in a day, you can definitely see those flat lines.
Yeah.
And worth noting that beacon rate will come back up. It's just where we're at right now.
Yeah, and so that probably is a nice segue. And actually, I've got a small announcement to make, is that internally to the State of the Nation team we talked about last week, is this is going to be an audio podcast. So the first episode is already out on wherever you find your podcast, and this one will also be out within, I think, 36 hours is the agreement I've got with this guy who's doing the audio for this. So everybody can listen to this as well. And so I'll probably be reading a little bit more comments than I normally do because the listeners can't see them.
So now we're on Spotify. Is that when we start getting Teslas as sponsorship for coming on, or
that is? Yeah, that was the promise I made. Yeah.
Right, cool.
Purple, remember?
You get a Tesla, and you get a Tesla. All right. Let's see. Let's talk about the beaconing thing, because right now it's every 3 or 4 days. But I read in the announcements there's planned that, like, the intent is to get a beaconing. What was it? Was it, Joey, like 4 times a day or something? And unlimited witnesses?
I think that's what I saw, the number.
Yeah.
So, we should see a lot more activity. Basically, the trade-off is going to be, instead of getting like a bunch of more HNT for these infrequent beacons, you'll get less HNT, but more spread out. It's all coming from the same pool.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just I guess it gives people a little bit more comfort when they can see things that are happening on a regular basis. Personally, I stopped doing this to all my hotspots several months ago. I just sort of let it run at the moment. I don't look at it every 4 minutes to check that something's happened, but there are a lot of people that still do like to see that regular heartbeat, and it is good. It's messed up a few sites, I think, as well, this because I'm getting notifications left, right and centre on my emails that your hotspot hasn't done anything for 1,000 blocks, and that's it's at the moment that's perfectly normal. But yeah, a more regular heartbeat is nice to see, because you can determine whether or not there's something up with your hotspot, and whether you need to give it a kick or not.
Yeah. So one of the guys in the Gristle crew had asked me this. Maybe you guys have an answer. He asked a bunch of people at Helium House, But is there a way or either a hardware or software tool that is a function check for hotspots? Is there anything that you guys know of where you can basically within, I don't know, a minute or less be like, oh yeah, everything is working on my hotspot. It witnesses, it beacons, it does the thing, it syncs. Like, I can't think of anything. Oh, Joey, what do you got? What are you digging through there?
He's going to get out a sensor, isn't he?
or a mapper.
I was going to say you can't really tell too well from witnessing or beaconing, but you can tell if it's app or send data. Yeah.
Yeah. So I built this thing way back and never actually used it, but the whole idea was this would be like a LoRaWAN device that would just sit in line. This is for the OG hotspot, so the little dongle there. But it was meant to be a power cycling device, so it would just automatically send out packets, and then if it was failing a couple of packets in a row or something, it would just reboot itself and wait a little bit longer. I don't know, that idea, feel free for somebody to grab it. I just never built it. But
so there's not like
there's stuff like this out there.
But is there an actual go ahead.
The closest you can really do is like if you had a Pi locally with a hotspot, you can install things like Home Assistant, and like some makes export stats on the hotspot locally, so you can go in there and grab all those details and plot them, and then get alerts if something goes wrong. But really, it's quite DIY at the moment. Obviously, Paul's got his 𝗚𝗶𝘀𝗁 test.
Yeah, he's working on a thing.
Yeah, and I think Paul's thing is the closest, but I still. I'll take this. I'm just thinking of like this idea of a function check where you can quickly make sure that everything's working. Seems like it'd be super useful, but it's not there. So,
something like discovery mode, maybe.
Yeah, I think discovery, but just like the whole thing. So in my perfect world, and I think this would kind of solve a lot of problems with people wondering if their hotspot is working. If there's kind of one button you can push on your app that just goes through and it's like, oh yeah, this thing can still beacon. It can still like, it just heard this witnesses, or whatever it is. Even if you don't get credit for it, or you don't earn for those beacons or witnesses, that would be super cool.
I mean, realistically, 5 or 6 months from now, this idea of like, is my hotspot working should hopefully not be a problem anymore.
Right.
Like,
right.
Think your DIYs, Nick. Like, they are very dumb devices. I hear things, I send them away. And
Yep.
The only times I think that you're probably running into issues is when the cell modems or things like that go out.
Yeah. So I mean,
and that's the world that we're in with light hotspots. They're just gonna pass stuff along.
Yeah, on the DIYs, like I can always log into those and be like, oh yeah, like it did this thing, or it witnessed this, or it did this beacon or something. Like it's much easier, at least for me, to check that. But again, to Neil's point, it's still super DIY. Like it's not built into any app or any hotspot thing or wallet or maker or whatever. It is.
The closest that I've seen to what you want is that I know Syncrobits. If it's Syncrobit to Syncrobit, they can do test POC. So they'll broadcast and receive it in their software.
Yep.
And record like a test POC. Obviously, it's not live on the network or anything, but it allows you to test if another Syncrobit is working when you're in range of one. It would be lovely to see manufacturers do things like that. They totally can, but it would need an adoption of a standard across all makers to support that. But it's the same with discovery mode. They're saying like maybe it won't come back from Helium, but the makers could make that happen on their software. Technically bring up a device and pay for that traffic. So we could see those tools evolve. It's just we need to get them to develop it, basically.
Cool. So that's a cool little business opportunity for someone. And it's probably not as useful to have a physical tool. Like I'm also thinking of something that you would plug into you'd attach to the antenna connector. So you take your antenna off, you'd put this little device on, and then you'd hit a button and the device would send in a signal to the hotspot so that the signal could receive it. It would like request a ping back so that the hotspot could, do a fake beacon out. So you could kind of do this really quick function check. But again, that's in physical proximity. Okay. I think that answers my question. I saw John McQuarrie had something. When do we expect hotspots to stop keeping a copy of the blockchain as a backup? I don't know the answer to that. Any of you guys?
Soon.
Yeah.
When?
Yeah, there was a problem with load on the validators when they enabled MUX. MUX is this like temporary piece of software that handles all of the data transfer. It passes it to the Erlang miner and to the Gateway RS miner. It's like a temporary piece of software until Gateway RS is ready. When they enabled it, validators just struggled completely, and run out of memory in a lot of occasions. So they were saying if they can't find the bug with that temporary bit of software, they'll just forge ahead with Gateway RS, so it could just be the full swap. We don't have that temporary piece, but that's really their focus, trying to get Mux working at the moment.
Cool. Dig it. I like it.
Yeah, once Mux is enabled, they can then disable sync. So it's not until that stage or Gateway RS is ready that they can turn off the sync, because data is currently going over the synced part of the miner. So if they turned off sync right now, data transfer won't come through.
Which is the point of the network.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, there's not like any of us have an actual idea, but I was thinking when they first announced, when was the light hotspot transition? When was like the first date? Was it May 11th or May 7th or something? Remember, everybody was waiting for this one date. They're like, oh my God, on Tuesday it's going to be fixed. And I think on the show here, we're like, no, it's going to take a couple weeks. And here we are, June 20th.
Apart from Joey.
Yeah, with Joey's very confident, which is good. That's what you want. But I'm thinking now, when people ask me, like, when are we going to be through light hotspots, I'm kind of thinking mid-July, like it's going to be another month until we clean everything up and get it sorted. And that's just like a gut feeling guess. That's what me as an idiot, not knowing any of the actual work that's going to have to happen, is saying. What do you guys think? Like, what are your guesses? If you had to put $1 on the outcome, what would you say?
Month and a half, 2 maybe. We've got to have the code presented and a hit praised that has to go through a vote as well. So you're probably talking like a week for the vote, and then to have the code ready, we're probably talking a month, maybe 2. So 2.5 months, 3 months, I guess.
Wait, what part are we talking about?
I think you've jumped ahead, Neil.
Huh?
I think you've jumped ahead with the announcement. I think we're talking about just the transition to lights.
Just light hotspots, yeah.
Oh, I see. I don't think we're gonna transfer without that.
Oh,
fully.
Really? Okay.
I don't think we're gonna be fully out of the situation until that happens.
No,
Okay.
I think we've reached a level of stability now, as per the data, and I think to increase the POC rate now with the light hotspots, it sounds like from the development team that's not really going to be an option. The only way to do that is via the announcement that they made on Sunday or whenever it was.
Okay.
So I think we're in a stable position now. It's not great. It's not great for everybody, but at least it's stable. It's the most stable I've seen it in 12 months, to be honest.
Nice.
Sort of,
So we've got our.
it's a nice place to be, but. Yeah.
So we've got our soldier on the helicopter. We've stopped the bleeding, but we still haven't got to the hospital where they can fix the problem.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. Joey, what have you got to add to the whole thing?
Yeah, I'm still kind of missing some info, so it's just speculation at this point.
Yep, totally.
I think we could see the hotspots stop syncing probably soon. Yeah, the Gateway RS thing seems to be sort of wrapping up, but there's a lot of stuff sort of in the pipeline for like this IoT sub-DAO that is going to sort of need some consideration. Some code needs to be put together to get that to a vote. So there's just a bunch of stuff going on that we almost need that the It's Always Sunny meme with all the lines. There's just everything's interconnected right now. You got to sort of float a lot of pieces in your head, but I think it'll clarify pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, with all that, I'm thinking instead of like mid-July, maybe we see like a stable kind of system at the end of the summer. So maybe in time for my birthday, mid-September. That seems like a more reasonable thing. And if you're watching this, then that helps you. Hopefully it helps you, or listening to this, helps you not look at your hotspot every day. Birthday. Yeah, that'd be a lovely birthday present. Like not freak out about your hotspot. Just say like, hey, as long as the thing is connected to internet and power, it's not going to solve itself in the next day or two. Go do something else productive. Look for other things. Learn more about the system. Whatever it is.
Yeah, I guess the caveat there is how many hotspots will be onboarded between now and then. I think a lot of vendors are now pushing out from stock, so that there could be a huge number of hotspots arrive on the network before September as well, which just throws in a little curveball in terms of how everything performs.
Yeah. Oh, Siegfried's got a question. Is there any way to estimate roughly what percentage of offline hotspots are offline because the light hotspot transition is incomplete versus what percentage is offline because people turn them off? Which I guess the real question is like how many people have turned off their hotspots? I cannot imagine that a bunch of them have, but I've got like this super sunny, outlook on the whole thing. And there's zero chance that I'm going to purposely turn any of my hotspots off. But I have seen a lot of people especially in the more toxic places, unplugging their hotspot and making a big deal of it. Do you guys know if there's a way to check that?
Well, maybe taking a different angle on this, one of the things that I've been curious to inspect is like if our offline hotspots are sort of tied to makers. So like, is there a maker that's dragging their feet on updates? Because I have a couple of offline hotspots. Not to dive into the like naming names, like I have suspicions that it's software or hardware related. So that would be a curious angle to chase, is part of this transition sort of being buggered up by people just moving slow on the manufacturer side. Mm-hmm. The other angle is, like some people are in this network just for the mining and they're not looking, even 3 feet ahead of them in terms of like what they're trying to do with the mining side of things. So yeah, some people they bought the hotspots a couple months ago, they've got it now, they don't think they're going to get their ROI, so they throw it on eBay or whatever they're going to do. So there's probably a lot sort of just in float with regard to that. But
interesting. Yeah,
we're definitely seeing like just like to throw in the little like happy angle of this, like I had some friends that were out mapping this past weekend. I unfortunately was inside all weekend with COVID. But they were hitting areas that were just like previously no coverage at all. And they're just like solid lines, like out in the middle of mountains and all sorts of stuff. And it's really cool to see the continued growth of the network. But yeah, that's my little optimistic side.
Yeah, I think we can sort of certainly look at what you're proposing, Joey. I'll have a look and see if I can find some data on hotspot and vendors that may be offline. It'd be interesting as well to see that the number of hotspots that are being transferred. As you say, they're moving around on eBay, and I think it should be fairly easy to look at those and make an estimate of how many are moving compared to maybe a month ago or 2 months ago, just to see if there is a general trend of people turning off and selling up.
Yeah, which I guess that makes sense. So if I think of, and I gotta be, keep in mind that like not everybody has our or certainly my kind of outlook that this is a super fun project. I'm kind of super long on it. I think the whole thing's going to work out eventually, and it's totally worth sticking around. But some folks, and I think there's nothing wrong with this. They got into it to make money. It's not making money, so they're going to sell their hotspot, recoup their costs, and move on. Like that's cool. That's not a bad thing. And it's interesting to think like I wonder how many folks are following that course of action and saying, hey, I bought this thing for $600 on eBay. I can still sell it for $300. At least I only lost $300 or whatever they're down.
You hear the odd story though. I mean, especially on the Discord, people are snapping up bargains. So there's people scanning eBay looking for bargains.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've heard of hotspots going for a few $100s, but they're rare and few and far between because the second they come up, they're bought. And that's the whole point. Yeah. Like you might want to sell because it's not economical for you, but there's others that will find it economical. I can't say the word. And, want to expand the network still. You know, it's just, some people will sell, but they're still buyers. So.
Yeah, no, it's a cool thing. I've seen something from Jay, and I'm curious about this myself. Any thoughts on Helium Test device? What's that, Joey? Is this your fancy thing?
This is a 5G mapper.
Ah, that's Jay's question. Okay, when are we going to see that thing? I believe one is supposed to be. You're seeing it right
now.
Yeah. When am I going to see that in this office?
Yeah. You know what? I might get one over to you, Nick, just so you can sort of start playing around with it.
Cool.
Because I'm going to be sort of traveling and doing a bunch of stuff. But this thing is something of a beast right now. It's very much a prototype.
Yep.
But
massive.
Just put it in your pocket. Look at Neil. He's like, oh my God, where'd all the components? This is so awesome.
Yeah. No, I know you want to see the goods here. I'm trying to give you a good angle. So sort of tucked behind, I'm going to go back to front.
Yep.
So tucked behind this PCB is a big old battery pack. So you can kind of see that hiding in there.
Yep.
And then sitting on top of that is your like single board computer with a couple of like USB interface, whatever these sockets are, drawing a blank on the name. And so one of these is a cell modem, and the other is actually a LoRa concentrator. So it's a rack, what's 62, what is this thing?
The UFL connection, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I was just trying to remember. Well, anyway, concentrator and modem. And so kind of the fun thing here is Lewis on the Nova core dev team put this together. He's actually using the concentrator just as like an end node. So it's putting together a packet of all of the cell modem stuff that it hears. So it's basically listening for towers beaconing, saying like, hey, I'm here. Puts that together in a massive packet and then sends that out over the LoRaWAN network. So we're actually using the LoRaWAN network as the backhaul to detect cell modem availability and signal strength and all that fun stuff. It's not actually doing a connect, like a join to the cellular network. It's just sort of getting those IDs and passing them along.
So, I've got this little, I've got this 5G unit running in the office, so that should pick that thing up. Like it's the idea of this is to map 5G coverage. Okay.
Yeah, you can totally see your Freedom Fi hotspots with this thing. It's super cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, and so this is building a little coverage map right now, just as like prototype. This device, this one, for some reason, this one in particular, like lost its software, so I need to reflash it.
And then what are the?
A little finicky right now.
I'm pretty sure. Well, actually, I'm 100% sure I know the answer. Are those going to be DIY units, Joey?
I mean, this is very much DIY right now.
Like for someone on the chat, can they build their own 5G mapper?
I mean,
the answer I've got is a hard, a hard no. Because I mean, like keeping it secure.
Sure. So like this is all just like exploratory right now. Right. So I don't think any of the data that we're collecting right now is really sort of meant for proof of coverage or like any of the like stuff that's planned in for that. Yep. Ultimately, Anthony wants some pictures. I don't know if I'm in a good spot to send pictures of it yet, but maybe.
Dude, send it to me. I'll snap some pics. I'll take care of business.
I'll clear some stuff. Nobody saw anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, ultimately, if this thing is doing proof of coverage, then I would expect, we need sort of a secure element on there. It's going to sort of, there'd be some process and sort of whatnot involved in that. I've sort of heard some rumors on like devices and things like that might get used, but it's just really nothing concrete right now. I think it's fun to see that like these prototype devices exist and we're starting to sort of just get our feet wet and see how this stuff can run.
Love it. And I know you got to drop into
right now.
Good.
Oh yeah. I was just going to say right now it's really no different than LoRaWAN mapping. We're just out there collecting data. It's not getting sort of leveraged in network building or anything.
It's not official yet.
Us understanding things. Yeah.
Cool. We got a local 𝗶𝗶 here in San Diego, Dirk Beer, who's asking, have you seen impact of hotspot problems on sensor connectivity? Several of my devices have dropped offline over the last 2 weeks and are having trouble reconnecting. And I know Dirk, he is not an idiot. Like it's very unlikely it's user error. I mean, it's possible.
Yep.
But yeah, what are you guys seeing?
Yeah. I've got I think 2 out of 5 of my devices not joining at the moment.
Okay. And when you're saying devices, you're talking about sensors, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Just we'll put it in like normal people talk.
Those 2 devices are the ones that I use to reboot my hotspots remotely, which is a real pain because it means I've got to go out to them and do it. But
generally not seeing join issues, but yeah.
But you are seeing some kind of issues with the sensors basically not connecting all the time or being perfect.
Yeah, because the data's going over the synced part of the miner. So if the miner loses sync, then it doesn't deliver data.
Now, walk me through how that might work. So if in some cases, you've got you can set on console that you've got a miner that's your preferential miner. So I'm like, oh, I only want data to go through amateur Jade Hare. If AJH isn't synced, does that mean that the data on those sensors doesn't go out, or does it just go to kind of the next hotspot in line, or is there
next one in line? Yeah, okay. It'll just pass to the next one to respond, the first one to respond to it, basically.
Yep.
Not if you're doing the preferential thing. It will do the preferred. It'll do the preferred one, or it'll do nothing. So
okay.
Be careful with that feature.
Oh.
Huh.
Okay.
Yeah. And the cost is so darn low. Like, there doesn't seem to be a great reason to do the preferential piece.
Yeah, that makes less sense really that way around.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought preferred would just be, use these unless they're not available. That would make way more sense. So you can make sure it always goes through yours unless yours is not available.
Right.
Weird.
I think the feature maybe scoped as that in planning, and then implementation just didn't play. I don't know the details, but I thought the same thing, and then I was like, oh, that doesn't actually do much for me. Anyway, peace out, but take it easy, everyone.
Let's
see you, Joey.
All right. See you soon.
Joey gone. All right, let's get our Phantom Square back. Can't stand that. 3-piece. All right. Let's see. So we answered Dirk's question. I'm just making sure I'm seeing everything else in the chat. Bill Miller, what's happening with Panther? Nothing that is not in the announcements that I know of. I want to say the last announcement was that Helium had asked them, or the MCC had asked them to provide a bunch of information, and that's the last announcement made. So, but I think to put the kind of big picture on that, is the intent with that is to take care as much as possible of the folks who are, quote, good actors, and to deter and to block as much as possible the people who are gaming. So it's not going to be a super easy, super fast solution, but the point is to take care of the health of the network. So, all right.
Sure.
Anything else you guys have before we jump over to Dave's favorite topic of the week? This POC going off chain. No. Okay.
Let's do it.
Talk me through it. So what's going on, Dave? That's got you in a kerfluffle, in a tizzy.
But I think, as Joey referred to earlier, that there's not really enough information to make any solid statements. But I was just a little bit concerned when I read the announcement that POC data was going to be moved off chain. It seems to me that's like 70 or 80% of the data that's stored on the chain at the moment, and removing that kind of gets rid of the need to have a blockchain at all. That's kind of oversimplifying a little bit, because there is some benefit in having some of the other stuff. That the other aspect.
Neil's not buying it.
No, I'm not buying that. Everything still goes through validators, though. You've got to understand, everything still goes onto the chain, and validators validate the transaction and store it on blockchain. So there is reason to keep it on blockchain still.
Yeah, but we're moving, as I said, 70% of that load away from what was away from hotspots. Now it's away from validators. So we were from 800,000 units storing that information down to 3,500 in terms of validators, and now we're going to be going down to a small number of POC servers, number to be determined. And it kind of, I think when we were speaking offline, Nick said it's a move towards. Or is it a move towards centralization? And I think it is more of a move towards centralization. In terms of what it means for the network, I think it's absolutely the right thing to do, is to address these issues from the terms of scalability. I would potentially like to see other avenues explored, where the blockchain was perhaps optimized somewhat, but that's going to be an awful lot of work. I think that there may be opportunity with the split between IoT and mobile to reconfigure the blockchain, but that's a huge amount of work compared to what's being proposed. So I've got some reservations, and not least because it means that analytics data is harder to come by, because you have to go through multiple sources. But we're going to have to see how it plays out and what information that we do get. I was just a little bit stunned when the announcement came out, and I was also a bit concerned that if we can't cope with 800,000 hotspots, how are we going to cope when we get billions of sensors? Because they're going to have to go through the same mechanism. So it's likely, given this statement, that sensors will also be moved off chain. We'll see. We'll have to wait and see how it pans out.
So I see.
What
Neil,
do you mean moved off chain? I don't understand that. So data happens off chain already and then settles against the blockchain. So that's asynchronous. They're both on.
Ooh, there we go.
That's what it's saying about doing with POC. Because if we had data fully on chain, the blockchain would have fallen over ages ago. We just wouldn't have handled the transactions. So we settle it with asynchronous state channels. So to me, it makes sense that POC is data. It is data flow. So that can't be on chain because it slow things down. If we move it and asynchronously close it, those POC servers do all of the hard transactions, pass it to the validators, who then validate if that transaction should be allowed through or not. So it's still it's just what we do with data for POC.
Yeah, but the validators, well, again, we haven't got the information. The validators, as I understand, won't be doing the computation. They'll be passing through and signing, but they won't be doing the computation. Which, again, it means that we've got less of that information being validated by 3,500 validators or 800,000 hotspots.
All right, AP.
Sure, but then
hang on a second. Let's get AP's view on this thing. One of our computer wizards.
Well, me and Diggs actually had a chat the other day. So I think we both have conflicting kind of internal theories. Like for me, I think that I don't like to see something be decentralized in any way, and that's what's worrying me the most. But we've got to do something. We can't just leave it as it is because there's no workable solution that anyone's come up with. But we need to. It doesn't sit right, but also it needs to be done.
Yeah, it's like that kind of thing. If you were to see the reactionary YouTube videos to this, the headline's going to be centralization of POC. That's the big takeaway here. That's the big negative. Everyone's going to look at it. But what little we know so far is that obviously the code's open source and we can run our own versions of it. Not that we'll contribute, just that we can verify the transactions of everything going through. But the big thing there is look at what happened with the secret deny list. We knew what code they should be running, but were they? And that's the big negatives here. It moves into a very centralized way. But I think the process and what Helium's done before in the past, it's going to be fine. It's just what entities are going to be running these POC servers, and is there a way for us to do that instead?
Yeah, I think one of the things that came out of the announcement was, for me, it was like it's a done deal. This is what we're going to do, and subsequently we found that there is going to be a HIP, but who's going to block that HIP? Nobody's going to block that HIP because it's something that needs to be done. As I said, one of the things I would have,
beacons a day.
One of the things I would have liked to have seen is some different options, and I'm sure it was part of their away day last week discussing this to come up with the best solution. But it would have been nice to see whether there are any other solutions proposed, and what makes this the best one.
Dig it. And when you're saying their away day, the Nova team had an offsite last week. They were, I think, out from Tuesday through Thursday is what they said.
Yeah.
So that's it. I saw in the comments, and I'm sure this is going to fire some people off. I'm just going to read this comment from Jeffrey Lim. I heard somewhere Helium will move to Solana, but currently Solana is in a lot of troubles. Is there, and I'm seeing a couple other things, and I just don't understand this. When these guys are talking about taking it off chain, are they taking it off the Helium blockchain and putting it on another chain, or is it always going to be kind of connected to Helium and there's no chance of going to Solana, or I think one of the other guys said Cardano or something else?
There are little different things. I mean, what we're talking about here is, like, say, for example, HIP 17. the variables to work out, what transmit scale that hotspot had at that time it did activity is all done on chain right now, and it's all done by the validators. They're saying take that computation off onto a separate entity that does all of that for us, and then submits to validators. These are the transactions for this block. This is all the information. Is this okay? And they validate it and accept it onto the chain. So that main chain could be taken out, and it could be Ethereum or whatever, or Solana. But they're saying to add this extra step of doing all the computation on these new POC servers.
Okay, and I think I'm now getting it more. And Dave, one of the concerns you've got, aside from the centralization, is also that if it goes on to chain B, whatever that other thing is, that's one more step for you to go through to get analytics.
It's one more step, and that's not. It's not a major problem. It's just inconvenient, I guess, for me. The other element of it is obviously if it goes somewhere else, it ought to be on a chain somewhere that it's immutable, rather than hidden behind closed doors on this POC server. But we just don't have the detail to determine whether it's going to be completely open, whether we're going to have all the history, or whether we're going to end up in a position where there's all this data that we can't actually get easy access to without running our own server.
Go ahead, Adam.
I guess we need that data for also anti-gaming reasons as well. So we need, I guess that data will still be on chain, maybe. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm confused about what you mean by what do you think's coming off? I don't understand, because you're still going to have the witness, the RSSIs, when it was heard, by who, but you're going to have twice as much data because we're not going to have things like max witnesses. So whereas before max witnesses would have dropped a load of data, you're going to have extended data, because you could be seen by 200 and know way more about it. That's still going to be written on chain, right?
Yeah, and I'm going to jump in here, Dave, with one thing. Just if I think about what the Helium or Nova had shed, how they've behaved, with the exception of the secret deny list, which I'm totally on board with. I think they should have done that, and I don't think they had any other option. But with the exception of that, is everything they're doing, they're trying to make it as open as possible. So I can't imagine, if I'm kind of guessing and looking forward, that they're suddenly going to shift and be like, oh yeah, this one's going to be closed or secret or somehow unhidden. I think that just their ethos is this decentralized kind of open piece. That's just my feeling of it.
That's the ethos, isn't it? So hopefully it stays that direction. And there are some parts that are still centralized, right? Like the onboarding servers, etc.
Yeah. And this, it's a great question, because how do you decentralize the entire thing, and should the entire thing be, totally decentralized? And it seems like there's some parts. with this gaming stuff, imagine if we all had to vote on every decision in some decentralized way on anti-gaming stuff. I think that would take a lot longer than, a 1 hour or 2 hour hearing, which people still have a problem with. We all got our haters, but I think it's a much better system than if it's oh yeah, we have to wait for everyone in the 800,000 strong hotspot crowd to vote.
But there are other networks that do that for sure as well. There are other networks that have this kind of validation layer as centralized. There's 10 entities that have been invited to run the network as such. And they are successful, but it's whether or not you trust those people that are running it.
Yeah, I think that the drive is to have a trustless system, and at the moment it seems that we're moving a little bit more towards a trusted system, where, as I say, that there'll be a group of core POC servers that determine the fate of everything. And one of the other things is, will the reward structure change for validators, because validators are no longer validating?
Yeah, if there's a separate... Go ahead.
Yeah, there's people that have invested 10,000 HNT into providing a validator, and they're getting rewarded.
But they're still creating blocks, and they're still joining consensus, and they're still doing challenge creation.
But a lot of the validation activity that they were doing around, again, speculation around determining that the POC is going to be moving away from them. So,
but they're still going to be validating every transaction was legitimate, and they're still going to be creating the blocks. They're still going to be doing the consensus idea of this network. So, and they're still going to be doing the challenge construction. It's just that the memory usage for those things is going to drop significantly.
Yeah. So again, it's just sort of questions on how this is really going to work out, and what considerations need to be raised and talked about. As I say, I'm sure that the Nova team have been through all of this and looked at all the pros and cons. I guess it's up to us as a community to get the information from them and make sure that everybody's happy with it. I don't personally know of another way that it can be done simply, but I would like to have seen some more options. We like the blockchain.
Have to wait to the hit.
We like the blockchain. We like having everything on it. What we don't like is an ETL that's 7 terabytes rather, which again this is going to help in that respect. And again, this is why I said perhaps when we move to IoT and mobile, we start the blockchain from scratch, so we don't have this 7 terabytes worth of data.
That you have to
there
use. I'm seeing in the chat
as previous.
Oh, as previous. Yep. I'm seeing in the chat this 𝗱cie𝗲𝗀 is talking about these L2 chains, and I'm just trying to wrap my head around this. So I'm like way behind what you guys are talking about. Is that if I'm understanding that right, maybe this is a solution. Is that there's kind of the Helium main blockchain that sits as it is, or maybe gets cleaned up quite a bit, and then these L2 chains that are the IoT and the mobile, so the LoRa and the 5G, are somehow on maybe a different system entirely or different chain. Am I kind of understanding that structurally correctly, or is there something I'm missing that's a big deal?
You wouldn't want to wipe the old chain though; it'd just be too messy. You just couldn't do anything with it. Everyone's HNT would be reset. You'd have to do some sort of start a parachain to then transfer everything over, and then carry on.
I wasn't suggesting wiping the old chain, but having a fresh chain with those two distinct projects on it.
So right. They have to use. Good. They use DC to. It has to be the same chain as what's there.
Does it have to be? I mean, we're all just kind of guessing and speculating here. So I'm sure someone is going to take us, be like, Helium said, like, just to be clear, no one on this call works for Helium or has whatever an idea what's going on.
I think it's possible to do, but at some point you have to run two chains and transfer everything over from one chain to another. Yep. That's the point. At some point you have to do that swap.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So in other projects that I've worked with, a snapshot's been taken, and a fresh chain has been derived from that snapshot. So it is possible, but it would be again quite a monstrous task to think of all the implications of that.
Well, I mean, Helium does monstrous tasks pretty well so far. They've tackled and knocked out a couple of them. Yeah. And I mean, if we think about going back, is they sorted out, and I think Dave and I were talking about this before we went live, is I just have reread the white paper for I don't know how many, whatever time, and they were talking about some really cool concepts, and it's changed quite a bit since then, but it's like the system itself is still working. It's still kind of limping along and working. And you think about how much it's grown and how many changes it's gone through, from the transition over to validators to this light hotspots thing to whatever was before validators, HIP 15, HIP 17. Like, those are all giant changes. Helium doesn't seem to be, or Nova doesn't seem to be afraid of tackling giant projects and then pulling them off. So it's kind of a cool thing to think about how big this thing could be.
And as we saw at the start of the show, the network at the moment is probably the most stable that it's been, certainly in the 12 months that I've been looking at it, in terms of having the number of participants on a daily basis being pretty much the same. It's almost not worth looking at it now. I look at it every day and go, oh, it's the same as yesterday. It is testament to the work that they've done to get to this point. So I've got no doubt.
We've got so much coming, haven't we?
Yeah. You know what's going to happen tomorrow, don't you?
No, what's happening?
Well, yeah, exactly. It's just that we got so much to come that we're going to have to, at some point, our hotspots will suddenly magically deliver us IoT instead of Helium, and then at some point soon we're going to be earning a lot more IoT than we were Helium, and light gateways are going to be turned off. Sync's going to be a thing of the past. From what I understand, people testing the mux being turned on and sync being turned off, they're doing 5 gig of traffic a month. And then it really starts opening up some ideas about growing this network to a large size. And like Joey said, when this thing works properly, it should be plug and play.
Yeah.
We can just, you can leave it in the middle of nowhere and know it will be fine and know it will use hardly any power or internet or, you just don't need these dashboards, do you?
Yeah, five gig a month opens up a huge opportunity for more off-grids. At the moment, I think I pay £25 a month for my unlimited on my off-grid, which at the moment it's paying for itself, but in the future there will become a point where it costs me more in my mobile data than I'm earning, which then makes it not worthwhile. But if we can move down to a 5 gigabyte plan, you can get them for practically nothing. So it does sort of open things up again.
I was reminded of a lot of people from the GPU world saying right now, it's compared to the electricity costs, it's not profitable for them to GPU mine. They're spending more on power than they're earning back. So there's always that to remember. But I think we could do a lot better,
especially in the UK.
Exactly.
I think I had some discussions on that on Twitter with people that say, no, helium's dead, mining, you're only getting $1 a day. And I was like, well, look at GPU mining. It was at the time pretty much equivalent. So except you were spending £2,000 on hardware for a GPU rather than £300. So it was very comparable. But now with energy prices, unless you've got a really good solar setup, what you're mining for nothing basically on Ethereum.
Yeah.
I thought your last video, Nick, was great, by the way. The income versus investment. I thought that was such a good video. Yeah, that was such a good video to people to realize, you shouldn't be looking at this your daily earnings and that being your income. You should be looking at this as an investment. And yes, we're in a crypto winter, but those don't last forever.
No.
Yeah. Hey, I haven't seen Sky in a long time. I remember Sky was around when I first got into Helium. I don't know, have you guys been seeing?
We talk to her all the time.
We talk to her all the time. Okay.
Yeah,
I just haven't seen her here. It's good to see. It's like an old friend or something. I remember we had a chat when I was like trying to figure out some DIY thing, and she helped me out. So super cool to see that going on. Let's see. And I'm seeing in the chat also, it seems like there's some pretty competent and capable people is like jump in the Helium Discord server and contribute your ideas. It's open. It's there for you. I think it's kind of both the great opportunity and the great challenge is that it's pretty hard to herd all of these talented cats, but the talented cats are what's going to get us to the place that no one's ever been before. So it's on us to fix it.
Yeah, we need devs. We need people looking at security. We need people building systems. We need people giving help. There's just so much more manpower needed. I was having this conversation earlier. A lot of the networks. What's happening to my earnings? Well, those earnings could improve if people can put more effort into this. Crypto winters are periods where people really rally together and really push hard to build things and grow. And that's what we need to do right now to get this thing to pick up.
Yeah.
We need more people.
Let me ask you this, Neil. Is I'm kind of questioning this is how do we get more people to contribute? Because up until now, it's been, as far as I've seen it, like people are basically contributing for free. Occasionally, Nova will pick up kind of the most active, most talented, most interested folks to be an employee, but you're still seeing folks who are, and Anthony might be one of them. I don't know if he's been hired or not, where they're just like doing a boatload of work, and you would like all the guys on the call are doing a boatload of work basically for free. Is how do we start seeing that get incentivized, where like people can quit their full-time job and actually contribute their talents to this thing?
Well, there's grants to get you going. I mean, Dave's a great example of this, and there's a lot of people that I think should apply for grants to get things out there, and it's just that's a great starting thing. But like myself, I've built businesses on top of this to survive, and I have done for a year now. I've not really needed my earnings to survive and to contribute to Helium every day, and that's because I put the time and the effort in to grow something. And that's what they can do, They just need to get involved. And I think, like, you've got to remember certain people have certain skills, right? Not everyone's a coder, not everyone's a visual graphics artist, But some people can, resell services like my track pack thing, They could take that to their neighbor and sell that, make a bit of money from, producing the sensors and managing them for them. And I think having more opportunities like that will really help. B.
Yeah,
Thank
trackpack.io.
you.
There it is. Love it.
I think there are a lot of opportunities from collaborations as well. As Neil said, that there's people that are good at certain things but not so good at others, and getting into the community and understanding what other people can do and where you can offer your skills. I think, and just getting together. So analytics, for example. Neil's helped me. We've got Rob, who's also helped me. I've sort of had the idea and brought it together, but they've helped in lots of ways to get it up and running. So again, just get involved with other people.
Yep.
And as Neil said, that there are grants available to get things started, to incentivize that. I know I was speaking to a few people at Helium House that are looking at some ideas for grants. So
Yeah.
there are ways.
Put in the chat that you can go to heliumjobs.io, and I think you go to that now. Like, it's not whatever the giant job listing is, Monster or whatever it is. Like, it's not that there, or it's not that yet, but that's what it may be. And what we're seeing is like the building of an ecosystem. And so maybe I'm I got to reframe my own understanding of it and say, well, it's not kind of ready to be hiring people and firing people and letting people go willy nilly, but it's at the point where investing now could be pretty significant for later.
Yeah, I've seen some of your adverts on there, Nick.
Yeah. I put them up, and then I think I put one up for a helper, and nobody wanted to help. Nobody, like, they just wanted free money, or they didn't want to do anything. I was like, dude, no, this is a job I'm offering. It's not like a handout. It's going to be hard work. AP, how are you thinking about this? Because you're not quitting your full-time job and working for Foundation or Nova, right?
Yeah, I work full-time in IT security at the moment, and at the moment just kind of a hobbyist, just helping out when I get some time, and taking along. I'm also like repairing the hotspots as well still, so.
Oh, that's right. You have people send them to you, or you're buying them on eBay super cheap. I think you said $60 you got a hotspot for? Yeah,
the other day I got one for $60, a sense cap, fully working. It's passing data at the moment. Just waiting for it to beacon. Well, the other guy has it in his wallet at the moment, so I'm trying to grab it from him. So I have to go down the Helium CLI wallet route, but
dig it. And that's heliumrecycling.com, so people can send you their crappy old hotspot.
Yeah, I've had a few so far. I think probably like 5, not a lot.
Right.
But they're being redeployed already. Sent one to Spain the other day. Installed it myself when I was on holiday.
Get well.
some holiday.
Yeah. Cool. And I mean, there's always like the other piece that I'm seeing Tim Johnson say is, and that I've been pushing, is like, yeah, you can build your own sensor business, which is exactly what Neil has done. But there's not a clear path that I see yet for Nova or the Foundation to be kind of snapping people up who are contributing. It's still very much it's not laissez-faire.
It's bootstrap.
Yeah.
It's bootstrapping this network and the services on top of it right now. It's very, very early. People don't realize just how early we are.
Yeah.
And I think those took a time, and I think as we standardize things and improve things so it's much easier for them to do in so many aspects, that more people will be able to join the conversation, more people will be able to make and earn more from this network. But we're just kind of at the stage of, well, we think this is the right path. We're going to head down that path unless someone with a lot of knowledge comes in and says, wait, this is better. So you can't really make a massive difference if you step in now and say, wait, this POC server's wrong. Let's do it this way. But you need to contribute. Otherwise, we'll never hear those ideas.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the incentive, certainly from my point of view, and I guess from AP's point of view, is that if you're putting the time in now, you're putting the effort in now to make the network better. And the premise of that is, when it's better, the value of the network will go up, and what we've got invested in it will go up. So there's sort of
that's my main motivation.
Yeah. So it's not completely selfless. There is a long term rationale behind it, but at the moment it's just giving, I guess, and trying to contribute to something that we actually believe in.
Yeah, which is a cool thing, and that's probably as good a place as any to wrap it up with a minute ago. So I'll give you some kind of shout out stuff. Neil's thing is trackpack.io. That's TRACKPAC.io. Dave is Helium Analytics. Are you also .io?
.io, yeah.
Yep, heliumanalytics.io, and then AP is Helium Recycling. If you've got .com, if you've got old hotspots, go to that site and send them to him. And then I've got GristleKing, so gristleking.com. There's a couple things that I've been pushing out or thinking about GristleKing kind of lately. Is one of the things is I've tried to make a point of not asking for likes or subscribes on YouTube. I feel if you like it or you want to subscribe, you should be able to do that on your own. But I'm also seeing that that's probably a stupid stance, and I should probably start asking for those things. So if you like this channel and kind of like what we're doing here, which is sharing information. I mean, you just heard the ethos in the last 5-10 minutes, is folks are just giving. Then like or subscribe, keep it up, and also share this with folks around you. And I think that's probably the best thing that I would like to see is that if you have, through this show or through anything GristleKing or any of these 4 folks have done, have come to a better understanding of helium through that, is just share what we're doing, right? The more people know what's going on, the better this network is going to be. And I think, 80 to 90% of the toxicity that I see in various groups or threads or places on the internet, it doesn't come from people being naturally hateful. It comes from people being ignorant. And so if we can clear up that ignorance, if we can help people understand what's going on in the intent, and as Neil was saying, like, we're still super early where we are in the frame of reference in this network, that's going to help the whole project get way more positive. And then with that, GristleKing obviously has courses. So if you want to take the Helium Basic course and just go super fast through the whole thing instead of looking all over the internet for 9 different things, and then that's there for you. Or we've got the Gristle Crew, which is like this call, but a little bit more focused. We meet once a week on Tuesdays at 10 a.m. So that's, I think that's my spiel. Do you guys have anything to add where people should go? No?
No.
All right.
Nope.
Ripping. Well,
Okay.
thanks for coming on today, guys. Super good to see you and hang out, and I really appreciate you all taking your time to share your knowledge with the general public. Rock on. We'll see you next time.
Oh.
Bye.
Yep. See ya.
See you later.